Welcome to this explainer of the 7-minute six-pack philosophy. Look, if you've ever thought that you needed countless hours in the gym and some ridiculously expensive fancy equipment just to build a strong core, well, we are about to completely debunk that myth today. Okay, let's dive right into this because the absolute magic number here is 7, just 7 minutes. We're not talking about an hour, we're not even talking about 30 minutes. The entire protocol we're analyzing today is built around a super compact, hyper-efficient 7-minute window. Obviously, this makes it incredibly accessible for literally anyone, but as you'll see in just a moment, condensing your entire core training into such a tiny time frame means the intensity, it has to be absolutely through the roof. Now you're probably asking the immediate question that everyone asks, is that really all it takes to get a six-pack? I know. It sounds a bit like a late-night infomercial promise, right? But the underlying philosophy here actually isn't about finding some magical shortcut that just bypasses hard work. It's really about removing the everyday barriers that prevent the one single thing that actually matters in fitness. The creator of this routine, Jeff Cavaliere over at AthleanX, puts it perfectly. He says, six-pack abs are built just 7 minutes at a time. The fundamental secret to success here isn't about incredible volume. It's consistency. Think about it. If a workout takes an hour plus a commute to the gym, you are eventually going to find a reason to skip it. We all do. But if it literally only takes 7 minutes, well, it becomes something you can actually stick to day in and day out. The brevity of the workout is exactly what enables the consistency you need to see real changes, going from having no abs until they finally pop. But the reality of those 7 minutes definitely sets in when we look at the relentless pace. The playbook chops these 7 minutes up into punishing 60-second bodyweight intervals stacked back to back, with only the absolute rarest 30-second rest periods sprinkled in. It's designed to take its toll fast. You are basically packing what most people do in 20 minutes of lazy gym time into a non-stop metabolic furnace. So phase 1 of this physical gauntlet begins immediately with seated ab circles. You lift your legs up and make big circles, taking the movement entirely in one direction, let's say up into the left, for a full 60 seconds. This is designed to just completely exhaust the lower abs. But of course, you can't be lopsided, right? So the very next minute, with 0 rest, you transition into another grueling 60-second block, sweeping your legs up into the right. That is 2 straight minutes of continuous lower ab tension right out of the gate. So the crucial point is that form is literally everything under this much fatigue. You have to actively squeeze with your abs and avoid pulling with your hip flexors. If your hip flexors take over during these circles, which they'll want to do, the burn in those secondary muscles is going to become so incredibly intense that it will literally force you to quit before the interval is even over. You have to force the abs to do the actual work. Okay, next up on the docket is what's called the drunken mountain climber. And what's really interesting here is why this specific movement is chosen for the next 60 seconds. A standard mountain climber just drives the knees straight in, but bottom-up rotation is a primary anatomical function of the abdominal muscles. This drunken variation actually forces you to rotate as you drive your knees in, hitting those rotational fibers perfectly. And as the source notes with a bit of humor, please do not actually get drunk to do these, or it's going to make it a hell of a lot harder. You might end up with an unpleasant surprise on the floor by the end of it. After those first few grueling minutes, you finally hit a desperately needed 30-second rest period. Catch your breath because the moment it's over, you are thrown right back into the fire with a plank. But wait, the source explicitly rejects standard static planks. Just standing there like a board is boring and honestly less effective. Instead, the routine demands a 60-second marching dynamic plank, forcing continuous engagement, stability, and movement throughout the entire minute. From that marching plank, the routine shifts directly into a 60-second block of scissors. And again, this isn't just about casually moving your legs up and down. No, this exercise targets rotation right at the bottom of your torso. By leveraging the weight of the legs to create that lower rotational torque, it places a massive amount of stress directly onto the obliques, literally carving out the sides of the core. So, how do you actually survive this kind of pacing without quitting? Well, this brings us to the psychological side of the routine, the mental core game. When you are deep in the physical burn and you're feeling it every single second, your brain is absolutely going to scream at you to stop. You have to put yourself in a quiet place in your mind where your abs just keep cranking out reps on autopilot. The source uses some pretty hilarious visualization techniques to push through the pain, like imagining laying on a beach and mistaking the intense core pain for a severe sunburn, or even picturing dancing little carrot cakes in his head to keep a rhythm. Hey, whatever it takes to distract your mind from that escalating muscle burn.
And trust me, you will absolutely need those dancing carrot cakes for this next movement, the starfish crunch. This is a brutal 30-second exercise that the source jokingly admits everyone loves to hate. It involves sprawling out your arms and legs like a starfish and then driving them up to touch your toes across your body. It's incredibly effective because it targets the obliques from both top down and bottom up simultaneously. It is absolute torture, which is exactly why it's only programmed for 30 seconds. And this brilliantly illustrates the real goal of this entire workout. A lot of people watch these intense routines and think, man, if it's this hard for an elite trainer, how am I supposed to do it? Look, if you hit absolute failure at 20 seconds during a 30-second block, the strategy is super simple. You bail, you rest for those extra 10 seconds, and you just keep working up to the full duration over time. Gutting through the discomfort and seeing the other side of the finish line while scaling it to your own personal failure point is what truly matters here. After one final 30-second rest, we reach the end of the line. The absolute final push of this routine is the Russian V-tuck twist. You are keeping your legs off the ground, driving one knee in and touching to the opposite side for 30-second all-out sprint to the finish line. It wraps up the entire sequence, completely draining whatever tiny little bit of glycogen and energy you have left in your midsection. Which brings us to a deeply provocative question. The entire design of this protocol is centered on a strict, no excuses philosophy. You don't need a half hour, you don't need an expensive gym membership, you don't even need a single piece of equipment, literally just your own body weight. So if getting a strong defined core only requires 7 minutes of consistent, intense discomfort, what exactly is your excuse for not starting right now?